Hello, everybody. Welcome to One Day Today. We are on episode 13. We are a month into our virtual stage, and we've had some amazing shares so far. This has been so awesome for me and for all the guests who have shared so far. It's been really an amazing experience just to see how much amazing humanity is amongst us in the face of this COVID craziness. And that's why we're doing this. We're here to focus, highlight, and spotlight the beauty that's already happening in the world, despite all the things that are there. There is fear in the world. There is suffering, but there's also people who are doing amazing things, people who are contributing to us all. And that's why we're coming to you. So I'm so appreciative that you're here with us. I'd like to introduce and bring in, hello, Matthew, our co-host. Matthew, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing lovely. How about yourself?
Doing well. It's getting warm out. Seasons seem to officially be changing, but it's a beautiful day here in Nashville.
Yeah, I went for a walk right before the show. Just walked up the hill behind the condo here, and I had this pretty amazing experience. There was this one spot that felt really beautiful to sit down at, and got to watch all the swallows just going around picking out insects out of the air, and these massive clouds coming from two separate directions coming and meeting like right where I was looking, and like having like almost like battle lines, like just being drawn straight down. Like it was pretty cool to watch, and I really appreciated being outside. So
I love it.
Bringing a little bit of that energy in,
Enjoy the beauty in the little things and in the landscape and the sky. I love it. I'm really excited to have both our guests here today. I'd like to first introduce our first guest, Ron Fox. Ron, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we're so happy to have you, and we're just gonna let you have at it. So, Ron, the stage is yours.
Thank you. I am going to talk about my journey towards servant leadership. I'm not going to spend an awful lot of time talking about what it is. I'll just start out by telling you, if you want to research Robert Greenleaf, when you land on that page for the Greenleaf organization, they say servant leadership is a philosophy and set of practices that enriches the lives of individuals, builds better organizations, and here's the key point for me, ultimately creates a more just and caring world. I started my journey more like a bulldozer and not with a lot of finesse. I was on my own at a very, very early age, and my salvation came in the form of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I wound up joining a shadow cast, and we were all managed as wild and as untamed as we were, all managed by an amazing stage manager who taught us then the value of relationship building. And that's an integral part of servant leadership. And of course, back then I wasn't smart enough or wise enough to understand that. But that key component of relationship building, it definitely resonated with us, with our cast, because almost 4 decades later, we still keep in touch. We still have reunions every 1.5 to 2 years. We all do everything we can to get together and spend that time together. It was a pretty profoundly impactful point. I have not always been so smart about relying on people, though. And that's the thing about people who love you. They love you in spite of yourself. And when you're going through hard times and you're going through challenges, they want to know about it because they want to be able to help you. Here's an example. My last semester, when I was working on my associate's degree, I was homeless. 17 credit hours, managed to graduate with honors and move on to FAU and ultimately my bachelor's degree. But a guy who had become like a brother to me, I'd find out years later, was very disappointed, almost felt betrayed that I didn't let him know what was going on in my life. Now, for my own part, I had this vision, this idea that I needed to appear a certain way to him. I had to be perfect. I had to protect that image. I had to manage that vision I believed he had of me. And all along, really what he needed to know was that he could be there for me. and it hurt him that he felt I didn't trust him enough to be able to do that. But more on that in a little bit. I think ultimately the piece of relationship building that's critical and important is when you have dreams and you want to pursue them. For me, those dreams were going to work for Disney, working in the film, live show, theater industry as an actor and a stuntman, and writing. All of those things were real important to me, and I'll tell you honestly, I pursued them because and was successful because I simply didn't know enough what the word no meant. At Disney, I learned a great deal about what it meant to be part of a team. And I think that's an important thing that you should think about when you seek to develop yourself, when you seek to apply those tenets of servant leadership. And again, the most important thing to remember when it comes to servant leadership is we hear it often referred to in business terms, but it is applicable across the board, no matter where you are. If you're talking about family relationships, if you're talking about your friendships, whatever it is, we do things that are tenets and facets of servant leadership, like kindness, compassion, the authenticity that comes from caring and being concerned. Now more than ever, with the world sort of in lockdown, some people beginning to emerge from their caves, so to speak, there's no better time than the present to take the time when you see someone across the street or you're approaching someone to say hi, to acknowledge them. That is so important. Instead of averting your eyes, take the time to talk to people, take the time to get to learn their story, because that's the kind of thing that enriches yourself. And that is also a key piece of the servant leadership aspect. You genuinely put others first, because you know that by improving them, helping them to sort of tier up to wherever it is they want to go, you're helping yourself as well. Children unabashedly have no fear or concern or qualms, or they're so uniquely self-aware that it's not a self-esteem thing so much, or an ego thing for them to wave at people and say hi to people. Yesterday, walking down a sidewalk, and there's a couple walking with their boy in a stroller, and he's saying hi to everybody he sees, but he's also waving at every car that comes by. And I thought, man, that is so simple and beautiful, and it's it's a thing that we forget. Checking in with people is so important, and you can't lose sight of that, no matter what you're doing, whether it's in business or in your personal life. And it's super important right now, because people are out there. Some of them are floundering because they feel isolated. If they live alone, they may very well be feeling that way justifiably, because they have nobody. So make a note to yourself right now as you watch and listen to this, to reach out and check in with people. Don't check on or check up on people. Check in with them, genuinely engage them, and let them know you're thinking about them. That care and compassion that comes from wanting to connect and wanting to understand stories and understand other people's stories. I'm a big fan of history, and I love St. Augustine, Florida, and we were there. And my youngest was then about 4 years old, and we're walking up St. George's Street, and there's a homeless couple with a little puppy, and she wanted to go over and talk to them, and really she wanted to say hi to the puppy because she's a sucker for animals. So we go over there, and she's talking to them, and I realized 10 minutes have gone by, and she's learning about the story of the dog and the story of them. And she came to me and she said, I don't understand why do they have a home where? So I had to explain to her what was going on and why they were out there. And this compassionate 4-year-old demonstrated incredible servant leadership by saying, we should be there for them. We need to help them. Can I give them some money? And I went, yeah, sure. You know what? And you know what you do? You give them the money for their dog so they can get dog food for their puppy. So I gave her some money and she walked it over to them and talked to them for another 5 minutes. But, these are the things that we don't always think about. But servant leadership is about recognizing those opportunities, and it's about listening, and it's about engaging. I talked about how the Rocky Horror Picture Show Shadowcast was there for me and what they did to sort of elevate me and, in a sense, really genuinely rescue me. A dear friend of mine from that cast and I wound up writing a book called Confessions of a Transylvanian. And it basically became a love letter to Rocky Horror, to that cast, to anyone who's ever been to see the show or performed in a show. And it was written because we had lost one of our own. And mortality, of course, today in these times is as real as it has ever been. And we just wanted to make sure we could get that story out, get that love letter out. And we did. A sort of written form of servant leadership, because we provided this bridge building, which is what servant leadership is. Networking, to me, it sounds a little frail. It's a bit tenuous, whereas bridge building is something you create and you leave there. It's sustainable, it's long lasting. And this book has been able to do that as well. I talked about Chris. I met him when I started working on my associate's degree, and he was working in student government at the time, the student activities office, and we hit it off so well that we literally, before the term was in vogue, we became brothers from another mother, and did so much together. I lost him about 8 years ago, and it was a real difficult thing for me to manage. Some days I feel like I still haven't been able to survive or negotiate that pain. What I did learn, though, is we learn to live through that grief, that the hole is there. It doesn't get filled in. We just learn to walk around it. But I'm working on a book regarding my life with Chris, because by the time his son was born, Christopher was essentially, he was clinically depressed, and it was a difficult thing for anyone around him to know exactly how to deal with. And my job in telling this story of our relationship is to let his son know, your dad was one of the coolest people I ever knew in my life. And it's important that other people know that as well. Of course, I also hit on the very unpalatable yet necessary subject of depression, and how to reach out, how checking in with people can be a way of letting them know that you're there for them. Ultimately, I believe that that's the thing that we can do for ourselves and for everyone around us, is to stay in constant contact. It's not that hard. That saying about needing something to become an ingrained habit requires you to just simply do it over a span of 3-4 weeks, and then suddenly it feels weird if you don't do it on a regular basis. If you don't call your mom on a regular basis, start doing it. Pick up the phone every few days. She's glad to hear from you. Trust me, you're not bothering her. But check in with other people as well, and work on building that tribe, that support group of bridge builders. That's how you get through not only situations like what the world is dealing with now, but those people are also the same people who are going to help elevate you, are going to help you to become a bigger, better version of who you are. The thing that I discovered, among the many things I learned working at Disney, besides my passion for servant leadership, is creating magic and making pixie dust is something you can do anywhere. Disney teaches you how to do it their way, but you discover that the capacity for doing it is something inside all of us. So think about that. When you think about servant leadership and how it applies to you and how you can exercise it, you simply think about the point of caring, the point of gratitude, the point of saying thank you. That to me is so very, very important. It's in rare supply. Gratitude is in rare supply. There's no such thing as too much. Me personally, sort of as a side note, I can't wait till we get to a place where we can once again hug, because I'm a hugger, and I hate not just the social distancing, but all those people out there that I love that I can't hug. So think about that. If you like doing those things, it's likely that those people you're hugging enjoy receiving that just as much. The most important thing I want to leave you with when it comes to the idea of servant leadership is that every time you create an opportunity for somebody else, you're creating opportunities for yourself. You're enriching yourself. And all you have to do is pay attention to the cues. I learned a great deal as a servant leader for Disney, and I continue to learn. And the thing that I think is most important is, your life, a life is the only thing that can be built on a terrible foundation. No matter how rough it has been, you can build something solid and amazing. And you can't do it with a car, can't do it with a house, but you can do it with your life. And think about that. It's a really important, positive thing to drive you as you move forward. Remember that you're not alone. Remember that you do your best work when you're surrounded by people who believe in you and love you. And I think that to me is probably the most important thing in the world. So on that note, just go out, make magic, create pixie dust, and do whatever you need to make it a better world. I'd like to thank Abram and Matthew for making this happen. I think it's a phenomenal platform, and to everybody else out there watching, thank you for tuning in. Go out there and make it a great day.
Thank you so much for sharing, Ron. You're, I love it. I mean, I could listen to you talk about servant leadership for a long time. There's a lot of nuance, and it's a cool, beautiful concept. And I'm curious. To me, what comes to mind is the golden rule. Every culture, every religion, or even secular organization have some form of it. And it's love your neighbor as yourself. Do unto others how you want to be treated. And every culture, every religion has some version of that. And the way I see it, it's like you were saying, is like when we treat others well, ultimately it comes back to us in a very physical way, but also in a metaphysical way, with things we don't even see. It has a chain reaction.
I agree. I learned, it's kind of funny. It could be one of those, everything I needed to know about life I learned from working at Disney, that sort of thing. I'm a legacy recipient, which less than 1% of cast members worldwide get this award. And it was designed based on Walt's vision to dream, create, and inspire. And when I found, they surprise you because it's Disney. They do a big, huge production of it. And when I found out, I started crying hysterically because I was embarrassed. And, someone had said to me, that's exactly the reason why you got this award. My thing is I want to put other people first. I believe we all have to take care of ourselves first. That's why when they tell you when you're flying, the first thing you do if the oxygen mask drops is what? You put the mask on yourself first. Yeah, exactly. And that to me is that's a great cue for life, right? You want to take care of yourself. By making yourself whole, you make your world whole. And that's the thing that I seek to do, is make sure the people around me are whole. And servant leadership really has a lot of key components to that.
Yeah, I love that, that's happening through servant leadership for you, especially because so much of it requires slowing down.
Yes, it does.
That story with your daughter when she was 4 was like, that just hit me right there, because at that age, there's not all these things on the mind that's going, okay, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. It's just, it's present. She was present. And she just took the time in that presence to see what was going on. And from that, a genuine connection happened.
It's true. I just, in December, I got my MBA, and the most patient kid in the world is that little girl, because she would come and say, Dad, you want to play? And then she looked at me, she goes, let me guess, not now, you're doing schoolwork. And I said, yes, give me 20 minutes. And I realized no matter what my deadlines were, I still had time to put that away and take time for her. So yeah, you're right. She understands what it means to live in the present. She does it all the time. And I will never, ever do anything to stop her from thinking that way.
I really appreciate that. There was so much in your story I'd love to unpack. And I feel like I would actually, you know what? I'm just going to get those out there. So if you haven't seen it, I do a deep dive every once in a while with some guests. Like,
yes,
I'll bring them back on.
I have, yeah. I would love to do that if you're interested.
Absolutely, yeah. We can talk about that after the show, because there was just a lot there to unpack. The only other thing I'd like to bring up right now is, like, I love how, like, those little moments of enlightenment can come from the most unexpected places. Like when you said it started for you with the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yes.
I had water in my mouth and I almost choked because I started laughing so hard just because it was so great. Like, it was perfect. Like, it was absolutely perfect. Those little moments of, like, they can come from anywhere. And I love that it came for you from something, like, so out there and wild and fun and crazy and just like, yeah.
Yeah, it's not hyperbole for me to say that Rocky Horror saved my life, and I'm not kidding. Next year we'll be celebrating our 40th anniversary as a cast, and we get together every year and a half. And that book that I mentioned, we got the greatest compliment for us was not just Barry Bostwick and Susan Sarandon loved the book, but everywhere we traveled, every time we did book signings or speaking engagements, people would come up to us from other casts, people well young enough to be our children. You know, I was like, man, it's like you wrote a story about me. It's like that was my life. And that's a key component of servant leadership is being able to empathize, being able to get into their shoes and understand what they're feeling. Yeah, it's awesome. It really is.
Anything that invites you to slow down or invites me to slow down, I am all about.
Yes.
I had this vision a while, but like about 3 or 4 days ago, actually. No, about a week ago now. I don't keep track of time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, who is?
Yeah, right.
You know what? It's that day. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. It's today. One day is today. Like this is happening right now. Like this is it.
Yeah.
But like, so I kind of saw this as this giant funnel, and everyone's in the funnel, and the ones that are at the top are, you know, in the corporate rat race or in you know, living their lives and just worried. They're going so fast that they can't come down, right?
Right. Yep.
And so in that life, they come across something like servant leadership or One Day, or, you know, something that's big, that's out there, that reaches everyone, and it invites them just to slow down just a little bit. And when they slow down, they come further down the funnel. And as they come further down the funnel, they start running into more things like communities and values and love-based societies and egoless, and they just get slower and slower and slower and slower until they just fall right into that moment of self-awareness. Yes.
Yeah, more people should have that experience. It's a cold splash of water in the face after a night of heavy drinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or something else.
Or something else. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing, Ron. There's so many things that could come to mind, and I'm curious to hear more about your Disney experience, because I feel like everybody, especially growing up on Disney, is like, what's it like on the inside of Disney? Like, what are they doing? And I think it's amazing that you've learned a lot of this from the culture of Disney. And
yes,
that's kind of that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, Abram, I'll tell you just real quick. First time I stepped foot in the Magic Kingdom, they were still building Epcot, and I knew I wanted to work there because I'm walking up Main Street and I see people even then they're waving with Mickey hands, and you just stop and you're looking around because it's sensory overload. And you have cast members coming up to you asking how you are, if they can help you find anything. I was like, I can get paid to do this? Yes. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're really happy to have you share with us, and definitely look forward to having you do a deep dive.
That'd be fun.
Thank you so much for sharing. it was very
Thank you.
insightful and very inspiring what you had to share. So thank you for being with us, Ron.
Thank you both.
And thank you all.
Thank you, Ron.
All the viewers who are tuning in. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you again, Ron. If you'd like to participate on the stage and share like our guests, you can go to our website, onedaymvmt.org. This is a space for you to be you. This is a judgment-free zone, and it's important for us to keep it a safe space for you to be willing to be vulnerable, to share yourself, because when we share ourselves, even if we don't even see it, we reach people who may be experiencing or have gone through the same thing and didn't even know there was a way out of their suffering. And we want to provide a space for connection and for community, even when the world is physically separate. And that's exactly what we're doing. And our mission here at One Day is bringing you and I and communities together in joyous celebration, unifying humanity in our diversity to create a better world for us all. And we're doing that one share, one conversation at a time. I'm really excited to hear our next share. We have JamieLynn sharing with us. JamieLynn Warber. Hi, JamieLynn.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, we're so glad to have you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for joining us.
I'm just going to let you have at it, Jamie. The stage is yours.
Sounds good. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm the founder of Arise Empowered, empowering people's lives one voice at a time. I'm also the host of the Breakthrough and Thrive Summit, which is being hosted on Facebook with the Breakthrough and Thrive group, Ignite. Search that. It's going on right now. So what are those two things? So those are designed for those who've been through trauma and who have been sexually abused. And the story I don't often share and wish I would share more it's probably the one I should share today. When I was 7 years old, I got my own room, which in my family's home, it was 5 bedrooms, but nobody went upstairs. So this was like really cool. And the first night in my room, I heard voices and they were calling my name I thought my mom was calling me. Went and checked, it wasn't her. Turns out it was a bunch of spirits who came to remind me of a promise I made because I requested that they would remind me. So I've known since I was 7 years old that I've had the guidance and the proper setup to step onto a stage where people were in need of healing and wanting to thrive, but just didn't know how. So what was the turmoil that I had gone through? My my family suffers from generational sexual abuse, which means that it happens to more than one generation, and it happened to all of my offenders as far as I've understood it. I've had 5 of them, and was even mistreated in certain ways by my mother. And so I grew up with this understanding that I meant nothing. Everyone else is put first. And it was natural to me to give my heart away to people who were in need or to people who needed the support. And for years, I believed that I was not one of those people that was worthy of that in return. So when I did get it, it would surprise me. There was a moment in my life where it had been 8 years of sexual abuse, and I was thinking, what does the rest of my life look like? And believe it or not, I was 15 years old when I asked that question. Is the rest of my life going to be catering to them? Am I going to have a family and then they're going to call me up for whatever their needs are? And so, with that need of release from those bonds, I marched right into the counselor's office and I dropped a heavy weight on her desk and told her that 5 members had been abusing me since I was 7 years old. So with that, of course, panic ensued, and ironically enough, my mother tried to quarantine me, saying that I could never talk to another boy again. I could never wear tank tops. Out of panic, those were her reactions. I spent 10 plus years, because I'm still transforming, inside of training and leadership and healing. And now, where I'm at today is being able to be of service of others. I have a program called the Empowerment Program, which I can do one on one or as a group. And I think the biggest thing I can offer anyone that comes to me is the track of forgiveness. And I've got two separate stories. There's like stories within stories inside of my stuff. So my one story, um, is that one of my offenders told the full truth, and in the justice system, the truth is not rewarded. So he got the full punishment of 20 years, and he would be the honorable one. I always felt like he was going to be this person that was going to think in a lot of the ways that I did, and just tell the truth. And I was so grateful that at least one of them did. When I had the spirits come to me when I was 7, I asked for someone like him, and it became him. It was amazing. So he told the whole truth. He got 1 year sentenced. He was 19 at the time, feeling absolutely hopeless with a 20-year sentence. He just lived his life the way he was going to live it anyway. Broke most of his rules and ended up back into prison, which felt like a huge disappointment on my side because I had such faith in his ability to do good. So, through the process of him being inside of prison, we had the opportunity to actually start a relationship. And I was at a point where I had talked to all the other ones. I've gotten the information that I needed for myself, for the most part, and he was the last one. So it made sense that I'd cleared all that other stuff out of the way, and here he was ready because he said yes. He could deny for the parole hearing, but he said yes. After the parole hearing, we started what's called restorative justice, which is a dialogue between the victim and the offender, done by a third party, which is generally a lawyer or a lawyer in training. And then the ones in training, the benefit to them is they get to work with both the victim and defender, so they get to know which side of the law they would like to support. And after about 8 months, we settled into a 3 hour long conversation. And I saw that his life was harder than mine as far as I felt. He came from a violent past, and he had been sexually abused. And all he was looking for was love and connection. And considering where I had come from, a place of not mattering, I don't think that's a word, but I wanted the same. And what he brought to my life was that we would joke around. He would read anything I wrote. I love writing. In fact, I'm a published author now, best-selling books. And he read everything I handed to him. He was happy to clean my room so he had a place to hang out and have a good time. We had amazing conversations. And so our sexualness was all over the clothing and for a good number of years, and then it started to go under the clothes. And he just shared inside of Breakthrough and Thrive that he realized there was something that wasn't so right about going under the clothes. My attitude towards him had changed. um, Basically at that point for me, he became like everyone else. He wasn't this great guy anymore. He was out to get what he wanted. And so, inside of this dialogue, he heard the pain. And in the last parole hearing, just before he was released about 2 years ago, in fact, it was 2 years ago this month we had this conversation. The commissioner allowed us 15 minutes to freely talk, which that's like never done. But the commissioner knew us both at this point and felt that it was okay. And he was in the room with us, so he was like a guardian. And so my offender looks right at me, and he said that none of this was your fault. I took advantage of you, and there's no blame that you should have for yourself. He probably said it better. My heart melted, and I saw the man that I thought I saw before. And so now, I already told the ending of that story. He was in a position to be able to be on my summit, which we had not. We've only seen each other in person, well, in prison, or at my grandmother's funeral recently in January. So, which a bunch of people. You can't openly talk about the past. And so in this summit interview, it was nothing but talking about the past and how to create your future going forward and how he did it himself and how responsibility is key. And we came to this notion that um, whether you're a victim or offender, and in his case, he's both, responsibility is about the best thing that you have. That's your power, that's the empowerment, giving yourself permission to be in charge of your life. So, the other side of it is how to forgive when you don't have this interaction. And I wrote endless letters, notebooks full, and then burnt them over and over again. I talked about how much it hurt and writing to them. And then I started writing my book, that my upcoming book, Scars to Prove It. And I started to realize and really break down that I'm in charge of where my thoughts go. So the empowerment really started for me when I started writing my own book. And for those of you who are victims, it doesn't mean that you have to publish it, right? It's just you writing it and getting it out. And so the empowerment aspect, any moment of the day can be different, right? So we can wake up in the morning and be like, well, I don't really feel like it today. And I had a lot of days like that, 2 pregnancies. So then I had the hormones on top of it. And I only got up because the baby cried or my toddler needed food at the time or whatever it was. And now it's, I get up because I have something that I'm doing that fulfills me. It fulfills me to help others, and I'm not helping them. I'm assisting them in their journey of thriving. And the opportunities that are had when you can melt away your anger and dissolve your fear and stand up for what you believe in and who you are and believe the good things about yourself and put aside or ignore the bad things you think people are saying about you. Do I still go into pity parties? Yes, I do, because my mind had been trained to do that since I was 7 years old. I mean, I had a story for myself that I felt like I didn't deserve food because my mom was too high to make dinner. Um, I struggle talking about her in public arenas because I can hear her voice in my head going, I never did that. I never said that. The manipulation aspect comes up. I know narcissism is a big conversation right now, and she probably is in that category. Um, but regardless of what she's doing, regardless of what my offenders are doing, there's an opportunity to just look at what I'm doing in sense of who am I being, which emotion am I taking on right now? Do I want to be responsible for that? If I'm angry, how long do I give myself to be angry? It used to be years. Then I realized I could take control of that. And then it was 3 months, and I was like, wow. I'd look back, I've been angry for 3 months. This is insane. It started showing up in my physical body, my shoulder would just hurt so bad that it felt like my arm was going to fall off. But when you bring in the responsibility and the empowerment of what you're dealing with, you can say, I feel good right now, and I'm going to enjoy this and see how long you can make it last. And forgiveness is a big thing. You gift it to yourself when you're ready. Don't let anybody push you into anything or you have to heal now or anything like that. Gratitude was a huge part of it. The more grateful that more gratitude I brought into my life, the more good things that came to my life. You don't have to be traumatized or sexually abused to have this work for you. One of the practices that I take on is writing out a minimum of 5 to 10 times. I am grateful for the abundance of health. I'm grateful for the abundance of love. I'm grateful for the abundance of community. Read it out loud to myself. Say thank you abundantly. Who are you thanking? Doesn't matter. You can thank yourself or the universe or whatever. Doing this every day could be the same thing every day. And what that does is it opens up your mindset, your subconscious mind, to the opportunities of the good things that are in your life. You get to say what your life is, you get to create your life. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. It doesn't matter where you come from or what you used before to settle out your stresses. Let's put in positive, healthy habits now. And as Ron said in the last interview, you want to make sure that you have community. Community is the biggest thing. This is your foundation. Any sort of community that pushes you forward and makes you feel good about yourself, or I should say that you allow to have you feel good for yourself. Anything that brings you down or doesn't feel right, stay away from it. Just follow your intuition, stay away from the bad, and create your good and step into it and live with it and embrace it. And that is empowerment. And forgiveness, one more time, that's a gift to you when you're ready. And it's not condoning what they did. Anybody, it could be a bad comment, anything. It's to free you. You're no longer holding on to that tension and that anger. So thank you so much. If anyone wants to get in contact with me, you can reach me at info@ariseempowered.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Just thank you. Like that was more than I think I had ever hoped for from anybody. And I just really honor you for just putting yourself out there and sharing it, and for coming through that experience. That is huge. And like you said, yeah, if you can do it, anybody can do it. We were talking a bit before the show, and when you mentioned the sexual abuse thing, I haven't experienced it personally, but I am friends with many of my family. It's very ingrained in my family. It's an ever-present thing. And you're right. Like there is, at least I feel it, like I resonate with this. Like there is no difference, or there is no, let me back up. There's another way to put this. So in Lomi Lomi, I like, this is something I practiced on Hawaii for quite a while. There's no word for patient or doctor, sick or healer. There's like, that doesn't exist. There's only giver and receiver. And the giver and receiver can swap back and forth multiple times throughout a session. And I had never really looked at it that way from the other side before, like that both a victim and perpetrator can be both at the same time. It can swap back and forth throughout the encounter or throughout a lifetime, or it just feels like it brings home that kind of fundamental truth that it's impossible to give something good or bad without also receiving the same.
Mm-hmm. It's often said, hurt people because
Yes.
what they know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like we have 2 deep dives today.
I'd be happy to.
Yeah. I think we'll do that. Because there's just a lot to unpack. There's so much that can be shared from that experience. And I feel like it's not necessarily hope that comes from your story, but perspective and understanding. And to me, those 2 things can be much more powerful than hope.
Well, to be honest, what my offender, his name is Rob. I'm used to saying offender, but he has a name. What Rob and I are setting out to do is to create understanding, because in his perspective, and from my research, we see sexual offenders as one lumped group. They're all pedophiles. I'm sorry to say that I need to break that belief. I'm proud to say I'm breaking that belief. You've got, in my situation, I was 15 and my husband, now at the time boyfriend, was 19. They would have put him in prison for loving me, for being the first man to ask my permission to have sex with me. They would have put him in prison for that. Then you've got the ones who are, 20, 30, 40 older, and they're with little kids. that's a pedophile. And that's a diagnosis thing. You have to have a therapist come in, test you, talk to you, label you. What Rob and I did was connect when we couldn't find connection. And we are only 2 years apart. Anywhere else, nobody would have looked at it cross-eyed. And he's not related to me, but because we were raised together and because of the group, it just compiled. And you cannot take one sexual abuse story or molestation or whichever word you're comfortable with using and compare it to another. That can't be done. It has to be an individual basis. Not every victim is ready to go to court. Not every victim could survive court. Not every offender is going to apologize. We are not all the same. And so regardless, again, I think regardless if it's a sexual abuse story or otherwise, to take the time, like Ron was saying, to just be present and like you were saying, and get to know the person, get to know the why or the what or the drive, and just give space to be human.
Yeah, nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
This is definitely an experience I've had in my own life with women with former lovers where, I look back on it and realize, oh, I was a complete asshole in that
Well,
moment.
here, Matthew, hang on a second. Just hang on. Because it's not all your responsibility as the new guy in their life, and you may or may not know they're sexually abused until they say it, and they don't think they
Yeah.
can tell you. And she needs to take responsibility for what she's consenting to. That's something I didn't have a clue about until I met some of my speakers and realized how much responsibility the sexual lifestyle has on the woman's perspective.
Yeah, it's a friend of mine has a saying, intimacy before sex.
Yes. Yes.
And that's what it comes back to is having these conversations, actually knowing the other person before you know the other person.
Right. One night stands, if that's for you, maybe, but you have not connected with that person. It's a spiritual journey. For a woman, it literally takes 24 hours to turn around the right way. And I bet you nobody knows that. Like, not really. Why does it take that? She needs conversation. She needs cuddling. She needs this happy movie sometimes. If it's an action movie, let there be a love story. There has to be something that triggers her mind to go, yeah, that would be great. So that she can relax. The kids have to be in bed and silent for at least a half an hour before I could even think about it.
I feel like it can actually be simpler than that, though. And this speaks more to our culture, I suspect, than individuals. But like in my experience, she just wants to know my heart, and if I can't show that, then she's not going to be open.
Yeah. I mean, the little acts of kindness, that glance that says I love you without speaking. I mean, for women who haven't been sexually abused, that might be what works. And for those who have, they need to feel safe before anything else. And if your heart can show that, then you're in.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you. I really appreciate that.
Well, thanks for listening.
JamieLynn, I really acknowledge your courage and your strength in sharing your story, but also not only did you overcome your experience of abuse, but you are shining a light to help other people overcome their pain. And I think that's extraordinary what you're up to. And I think it's amazing who you are and what you're committed to and who you're being. And it's just a testament to what's possible. No matter what anybody's been through, there's a way out and there's a way to create something beautiful. And I think I said this the other day, I feel humans are very similar to diamonds and pearls, which our beauty is really cemented under pressure. When we're really crunched under pressure, that's where we're forced to transform, and it's beautiful who you are and what you're doing despite all you've been through. And I think that is so inspirational. I find it inspirational. I know our listeners and viewers find it inspirational. So just thank you for just sharing that. I can't imagine how hard it is to share it, and you're building just something beautiful to help people and contribute to people who have been through the same and end that cycle of abuse. So thank you, JamieLynn.
Thank you. And I want to acknowledge one last thing that when I shared the link for this live, I am taking a risk. I've got plenty of family members who would rather me not build my company, rather me not be on lives, rather me not write this book. And to them, I say thank you for allowing anyway. Thank you for telling me that you don't want this, because I hear you. And I know that whatever that is for you, it is more important to this world that I do what I do and that others come forward and do what they do. Like, I have found so many beautiful souls, men and women, doing the same thing that I'm doing, and there cannot be enough of us. And again, doesn't matter the conversation. What you guys are creating is amazing. We need this. As a whole world, we need this. So thank you for creating this.
Thank you. And I know that, men and women who hear you and hear your story and hear you share, I know they appreciate it, because they might be too afraid to admit it to others, or even to themselves, their own feelings and what they're going through. So you are doing a service, just sharing your story. So I think it's amazing. It's truly extraordinary.
There is one more thing that feels really present right now that I just feel like it's asking to be shared, and that is the power of choice. Yeah. In all of this, in your story, the most consistent thing that I see from you is you're constantly choosing to look for the best. You're constantly choosing to move forward. You're constantly choosing to learn the lesson. And that, to me, is the key. Like, what everyone was talking about just a second ago, with humans are formed under pressure. Like the beauty of us comes out under pressure. Yeah, absolutely. But only when we choose it is kind of the feeling I get.
If you don't have choice, you don't have power. And
exactly.
Choice is different from deciding. You guys didn't decide to create this company. You chose it. You chose this platform. And when it works, you keep going with it. When it doesn't work, you choose something else. But you cannot live your life off of decisions, which are, let's see, the difference between a choice and to decide. Decide kills off something. It takes away something. Other words that are like decide, pesticide, suicide, homicide, those all take away life, the opportunity to live. If you choose it. It's just a part of you. Chocolate, vanilla, strawberry ice cream. There's no because. You're just consuming that ice cream that fulfills you in that moment.
I have a sneaking suspicion you have been to Landmark too.
It's out. Love it. That's what I'm doing, strawberry. I was like,
Well, I think it's beautiful. We here at One Day, we choose to live by choice and not by chance.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not by our decisions, but it's amazing you're sharing your story. I look forward to hearing you have a deep dive session, and this has been amazing. It's so inspirational. I'm really inspired by who you are. So thank you again, JamieLynn.
Thank you, Abram, Matthew. Thank you so much for hosting this beautiful show.
Thank you.
And having me on it.
Oh,
and
thank you
let's
so much.
go ahead and bring back Ron real quick for one last goodbye. Hello again.
Hey, everybody.
Just thank you both so much for sharing with us and just being vulnerable and sharing who you are. And it's such a testament to what beauty and what beauty there is in the world and what's possible amidst the pandemic. You know, I could focus on all the scary things and all the uncomfortable things, but who you both are being, despite there being a global pandemic, gives us all a fighting chance for fighting our own suffering, our own fear, you know. And it's like when we can actually be present to what's holding us back, and that's what lets us step through the suffering, step through the fear, and find something even more beautiful that we didn't even know was possible. And thank you so much for taking the time and for just sharing who you are with us. We really, really appreciate it. I'm grateful to have both of you, and it's amazing. And to our viewers, thank you so much for sticking with us and for tuning in. You know, we if you'd like to share on the stage like these two amazing people, you can go to our website, www.onedaymvmt.org. There you can be part of the stage and share like these fine folks. You can also volunteer and help support us in the back end and all the processes that we are making the movement move forward. Besides that, thank you so much. But our vision here, our one day vision, is humanity rising in a connected world, with each person's unique contributions being valued and magnified through a higher level of collaboration, producing unprecedented new realms of possibility. That's why we're here. And these amazing people are fulfilling that vision just by being who they are. And we want you to share who you are, because this isn't vision for me, it's for all of us. And
yeah, and before we go out, we have a few more minutes. I was wondering, Ron, if you just like take a minute to just give us some final comments. We got to kind of come back to your conversation a little bit with Jamie, so I was wondering if you.
Oh my gosh, I think the through thread for both of our talks, both of our shares, involve making sure you surround yourself with the right people. You know, kind of like to lift a lyric from a song, don't surround yourself with yourself. Surround yourself with people you know are going to elevate you and push you forward. Your tribe, the people who have your back, are the people who are going to push you forward. That's so important. Nobody gets through this life accomplishing anything on their own.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
I just got to acknowledge that my boyfriend has been with me now for 19 years on May 19th. And Ron, without that support, that ultimate love, there's no way I could be making this business what it is.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, that's amazing. Actually,
yeah, we couldn't be here without you guys. So
no, it's very true.
Thank you.
There's a quote that comes to mind. I'm gonna actually pull up here. It's by Helen Keller, and what Helen said is, pull it up here: "Alone we can do so little; together we can do so much."
Yep.
Kind of a testament to what you were just saying, Ron, and that's, you know, that's why we're here. This is something we together we can do beautiful things, especially when we show up to ourselves and we don't run away from our fear. We step through it, and that's how we do a lot of amazing things together. But thank you so much, both of you, again. Thank you to our viewers. But until next time, we will see you all next week. I love you. Be safe, be well, and have a wonderful weekend. But take care. Thank you all.
Love you guys. Aloha. Until next time.
Until next time. Bye-bye.